And I am currently invisible for some reason. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the monastery. I am your one and only gaming monk. This is not the monastery, this is the Valley of the Judge. What the fuck am I saying?
Surprise, motherfucker.
And hey there, thank you, Jack, for the raid. Hope Scarlet Nexus was what treated you well. And excuse me for a moment while I try and figure out why I'm not here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to reset my model. But hopefully Scarlet Nexus treated you well. How you doing tonight? For those of you who do not know me, my name is Mildra. I am your one and only gaming monk. Tonight is the Valley of the Judged, where Monarch and I are delving more into Augusta Universalis, which can best be described as the Roman Empire in space. Actually, multiple Romes. Okay, there we go. I think there were some issues because VTube Studio had just done a update. Kind of raid and run, but I'll be lurking. Have a good stream. Oh, no worries, and thanks for swinging by. Hope you have a good night. So,
updates, screwing up all of your plans, always and every time.
Mm-hmm.
I hate updating programs so much.
Yep. So, last week we went into in brief on both the mechanics and the setting of Augusta Universalis. There were a lot of references to Dark Destiny, which is the system that this game uses as a base, but that game has never been translated. Which, fortunately, this isn't a case where we need the core book for Dark Destiny. It's just a frame of reference.
What a weird way that would have went to translate this and not the core book if you needed the core book.
Well, we kind of had that with Anima because the Xset books reference core Xset and not the original core rulebook we got.
Translating tabletop. Mm-hmm. What a weird history.
But I think one of the things we established last week was, for one, this is using a 2d8 system. Now, 2d8 aim high, comparing to a target number. But also the fact that setting wise, comparing this to Warhammer 40k is not accurate at all.
Yeah, I don't know where those comparisons originated.
When you're dealing with I think it's because of the fact that there's a judicious use of Greco-Roman elements in some parts of 40k, some more than others, and especially the aesthetic in certain areas, especially the God Emperor. And
just a quick overview of the setting for the people who just showed up. Rome got invaded by aliens in the past. Aliens underestimated them and got their ass kicked. Rome now has alien technology, took over the world. Fast forward to a few years now where we have Rome in space. Mm-hmm. That is the very, very brief rundown.
Oh yeah. And one of the biggest part of the warrior side of things is the Praetorians, which for this stream we'll be getting into the fluff and crunch of it, because the game is built on the assumption that you are playing as a Praetorian. One of the elite warriors of Rome who are going on whatever task the Empire needs. But it opens up with the pillar Praetorian, and then later on we'll get to the chapter Genesis. But it opens with, what does it mean to be a Praetorian? There are many answers to this question, as many as the milites, special militia, serving as the guards of the Roman Empire. Yet, all of them have some common features. They are human beings, enhanced by the best military technology in harmony with their bodies and minds, transformed into invincible guardians against the enemies of the Empire. Becoming a Praetorian means devoting your whole life to the salvation and prosperity of your own people and of the entire human race. For such a task, truly special powers are bestowed upon you. I know it would be tempting to look at the Praetorians and compare them to Space Marines, but given what we have here, I don't think that's accurate.
No, Space Marines are far more just stripped of humanity in said processes.
Mm-hmm. I'd say this is more akin to the Spartan 4s in Halo, which were well-trained soldiers that were uplifted to try and be on the same level as a Spartan 2, just without all the needing to do the enhancements from a very, very young age kind of thing.
I thought it was just something like a bunch of Captain Americas. But, Roman.
Mm-hmm. But there are a few, when it comes to the powers, first the Auctoritas. Every Praetorian embodies the supreme majesty of his own Imperator, hence any damage done to the Imperator feels like it's inflicted on the Praetorian itself. Imperium, they have absolute military power over both their own subordinates and all the regular soldiers of the Ordo Martis, the United Army of Humanity. Potestas, a Praetorian embodies the imperial law over civilians and has direct access to the finances of his own country if money is to be spent during a mission. And the Technolorica. The Praetorians wear the Technolorica, an enhanced endoskeleton that can be turned into a suit of heavy armor at the speed of thought. Hence, their body holds highly customized tools for support, protection, and destruction, far superior to any ordinary equipment. The first three go into the authority, the last one goes into one of the tech advantages they have. Namely, being able to call upon a certain power armor instantly. Which, again, is going to distinguish them from Astartes because of the fact that, Astartes are almost always in their armor. I mentioned this last week, but the way they describe the Technolorica, I keep thinking of Tokusatsu heroes in some form.
So Rome watched a few Super Sentai back in the day.
Actually, given the authority that is mentioned, I think they watched Gavan or any of the Space Sheriff Metal Hero series.
There's a number of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Now, to become a Praetorian, you have to go through long training from a young age as a postulans or an aspirant. So you do have to do this at a young age. But after spotting that talent, I do find it interesting that they note that the Caesars and the Augusti pay great attention to the spontaneity of the choice. Those who do not actually want to become Praetorians cannot and must never try the tirocinium. the period of which the Tirocinium takes place at the 5 Ordenes, which covers the most relevant skills and training necessary. Every aspiring Praetorian is sent to different ordos where they study and undergo training, while great care is put into the search of true personal vocation through one of these specialties unique to the Ordenes. The final exams require all postulants to be competent in performing at least the basic tasks of each ordo, one of which being the postulant's favorite, the one in which he shines, the one in which his personal talents stand out even more. If they don't give up at this point, they'll be received directly by his imperator for the ceremony of the vestitito. Fucking Latin, man.
Also, for anyone who wasn't here last week, I highly recommend, if you're playing this game, keep a page open to the nice little index of all the words and what they mean, because it can be so easy to get yourself lost with all the different Italian words and keep track of what all this means.
So,
I'm so glad they have those couple pages of notes in the front of the book.
So, the vestitito is the presentation of the postulants to the Kaiser or the Augustus. As mentioned before, the Kaiser is the one who is at the top of the food chain. The Augustus is one step below. But the rite is essentially the end of a postulant's normal life and the rebirth as a miles, ordained by the supreme authority. After which they are given the title of probatus, a newly established Praetorian, and get their first implants, the heart of their technolorica, going through complex and specialized surgery, mostly focused on arresting the rejection processes at an almost total success rate. The procedures follow the dictates of the Logos, combining technology and human flesh in a unique, harmonious way that is different for each Praetorian. In rare cases of partial rejection, side effects could result, such as physical defects or mental trauma that may lead to immediate dismissal unless the Praetorian proves to be in control. So, I'm pretty sure, once again, I know it'd be tempting to go with Space Marines, but I don't see it. And we're going to keep bringing that up because I know people are going to find any little thing to say, oh, this is like Space Marines. No. They're not even that degree of post-human. Certainly enhanced, but honestly, no. Honestly, bringing up... I know you brought up Super Sentai, but Kamen Rider would probably be closer to the mark.
Yeah.
Especially the Showa-era Kamen Riders, where pretty much all of them are technically post-humans. Because they've all gone through some sort of cybernetics. And you know, the original two had wind-powered thermonuclear engines in their bodies. Which, if you raise an eyebrow about that, remember, it was the 70s. But the original Guardia, the Praetorian Guard, was founded by Octavius Augustus, the first princeps of the Empire, who defeated the Serath invaders with his military genius. Centuries of Romanization had brought together non-Latin people to draw inspiration from this group of soldiers, leading to what is now the Guardiae, small groups of specialists who are no longer exclusively military, suitable for any kind of mission for their imperator. There are 10 Guardiae protecting the 10 kingdoms of the Roman Empire, one for each Caesar or Augustus in the Imperial Senate. Essentially, each Guardiae is associated with one of the 10 kingdoms we talked about before. So the Guardia Adamantis is Oh, is the descendant of the Praetorians of Octavius. So these are the OGs. Um, the Guardia Aurea protects the Byzantium. Um, the Guardia Ferrera protects the Holy Roman Empire, so protects the Kaiser. The Guardia Rubis protects the Tsars of the Russian Empire. And the Guardia Leonis protects the Shaka of the Zulu Federation. And there are other ones, and the Guardia can supply a series of missiones auxiliae to each of one of their militares, pursuing their own goals that may even contrast with those of the other praetoriums, especially in times of political turbulence. But each Guardia is composed of a number of legiones, i.e. legions. A legio is some kind of family unit within the largest extended family of the Guardia, but is still subject to the Imperator's authority and the normal hierarchy. And competition between them is not only frequent, but encouraged. But when it comes to the Ordines, the Ordos that are basically the trading houses. We have the Ordo Martis. So basically each of the Ordos is named after one of the Roman gods. The Ordo Martis, which is basically the military side of things, Mars. The Order Dianae, the explorers and pilots. The Order Mercurii, the diplomats. The Order Platonus, the assassins, spies, and infiltrators. And the Order Minervae, the scientific and philosophical minds. And they may supply auxiliary missions just like a Guardier may do so. But
nitpick here on my part.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it here we get auxiliary missions in quotations for missiones auxiliary? But earlier in the page, when it first comes up, that is not where we get that notation. I feel that should have been there instead.
Yeah.
It's a minor nitpick that I just annoyed me when I saw that.
Mm-hmm. But the milites are divided into different ranks called grada. Individually gradum. And we kind of went over this. We kind of went over the ranks last week. This just goes into a bit more detail on them, but the ranks are probatus, so you're a Praetorian who just started. Immuntus, a veteran Praetorian. Tritaris, a graduata or graduate who can command simple troops. A signifer, a veteran graduate who carries the standard of the Kaiser. A opto, a deputy commander of a manipulum. A centurion, a commander of a manipulum, a veteran subofficialis, and a tactical expert. A tribunus, a commander of many manipulae at the same time. A legatus, a commander of all the Praetorians in a large region. A consul, the commander of all the Praetorians of a planet on behalf of their imperator. And, of course, at the top, Imperator, the Kaiser or Augustus to whom the whole Guardia swears allegiance. In times of war or danger, he can equip himself with an experimental or extremely advanced Technolorica, and has absolute command over all the men in his Guardia. In order to rise higher in the ranks, you have to carry out numerous missions successfully, demonstrating to be worthy of conspicuous technological advancement and all of the trust which career advancement always entails. But then we get to the Technolorica, which I do like that they point out that many other human or alien military forces wear protective clothing and carry tools of destruction, but none of them can manage to handle weapons as if they were real extensions of their bodies. That and the things like saying the systema of the Lorca is not a vulgar implant violating the mind and body of its host, but instead underlines the host's natural qualities and limits defects. I feel like a lot of that is the book's way of saying this is not akin to the invasive implants you might see in a cyberpunk work or in certain other space operas.
Just some good old-fashioned increased punching power.
Mm-hmm. But the systema are parts of the Technolorica that it's composed of. They can be divided into armamenta for assault, aegades for protection, and instrumenta for multi-purpose non-military support. Essentially, these are the add-ons that you'd put together for your suit, and it feels like there's a implication that each Technolorica is tailor-made to the individual using it.
I think we'll see a bit more on that when we get to the actual character creation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And of course, they also go into the three parts of the soul, logos, demos, and pathos, as well as numerous scalae that are brought up. The scalae are basically belief systems. So we do have Christianity, Buddhism, Soviet Tsarism, and neo-paganism as well. As well as there's also the fact that Praetorians have access to a practically infinite amount of aurae, the main currency of the Empire, and thanks to their auctoratas, they can confiscate any good or service that could be of use to a mission they are dealing with. Which you might think, well, if they have an infinite money glitch, they could grab anything. Except it also says they will have to account for every single expense before their superiors, who will judge their good faith and sobriety with an unappealable verdict, imposing severe sanctions on those who steal or betray the trust placed upon them. That's the...
Basically, the game does not have a currency system. Basically, the game does not have a currency system like you would normally expect it is.
Yeah.
How much of a dick are you going to be, and how well can you justify how much of a dick you're about to be?
Yeah.
That is the currency system.
It's like, I liken it to how the Inquisitors in 40k technically have unlimited political power. But because of the fact that every one of them has that unlimited power, if they decide to make a move, they could end up pissing off somebody else for whom that move is interfering with their plans. Which kind of evens the playing field. But we also go into some of the different homelands. The first of which is the Regio Latina, which covers the whole Western Mediterranean from Europe to Northern Africa. We also have the Protectorate of Oceania, which is a particular case. Basically, since it talks about thousands of Aboriginal tribes, you could say this is basically Australia and its associated islands. And in fact, we have a nice little map that goes into that region. So we have the parts of the Mediterranean you'd expect, and then also the Protectorate of Oceania covers Australia and New Zealand. I do like that we have a few examples of contemporary names. But then we have the Regio Hellenica, which is the Eastern Mediterranean, going to Asia Minor and Northern Africa. And then the Regio Europea, which is Northern, Insular, and Central Europe. So basically all of Russia and its satellite states, or its former satellite states. Then we also have the Celtic part of it, as well as the German part of those regions. Then the Regio Africana, which is basically all of sub-Saharan Africa. And with each of these regions, I like that we have examples of names and surnames. So you at least have some bit of guidance. But after that, we get into Chapter 1, Genesis. And this is where you're going to be creating your Praetorian. The elements of the first element is of course name. You're given in family name. Or a nickname known as a cognomen, which is described as a nickname given to the Praetorian by his superiors, mentors, or companions. And after that, we have about 14 steps. But it's not like this is going to be, say, Rollmaster style of in-depth. The first step is choosing your Guardia. this is a resource that can provide auxiliary missions, and once per scene, you can narrate that to change the result of a check positively or negatively. If it deals with your homeland's history, secrets, or culture. And we've already gone over the main 5 Guardias. And there's also the fact that the Demiurge, i.e. the GM, has to decide whether or not you have a regular manipulum consisting of Praetorians from the same Guardia, or an inter-imperal manipulum, which has different Guardiae. I like this because you end up sidestepping a problem that can happen in some games where you hail from is a big deal. Of how do you set up a party that has people from multiple regions or multiple archetypes? You know, an example would be Legend of the Five Rings, where you have to ask and answer the question: how do you have a party of people from different clans, given the varying relationships between the clans?
While most games, something like this isn't an issue. For games like Five Rings or here, it very well could be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you. This is a good thing to clear right out of the gate.
Yeah. Oh. Then it goes into the Ordo, which we already mentioned. It again has that once per scene where you can use it to change the result of a check if it fits the context. Then the gradium, which is basically the rank, and you can pick between probatus, imnus, tiriatus, or signifer, or optio, centurion, or tribunus. Anything higher than tribunus, I think, would be beyond the scope of the kind of game that this is. And all sides have to agree with what rank they are, but I think as a general rule, it's best to go with probatus, since if you're playing rookie character, you're playing fresh-faced characters and the like.
Probatus or Amunis, I think, is where most games would probably fall.
Mm-hmm. At least at the start.
Yeah.
Historia is a brief description of their past, and has the same once per scene you can narrate in order to change the result of a check if the elements of that change are deemed appropriate. But then the mores is your personal objective, reflecting your desires, habits, and feelings. You have to invent 3 to 5 mores, which can be divided into 3 categories. Recurrent are mores that the Praetorian may fulfill several times during your life, like habits, feelings towards someone or something. Conclusive, these are mores that you'll fulfill one time only, and then will be automatically completed. And the thing with these is that they cannot be related to mere gameplay mechanics. So mores such as perform a check, activate an armamentum, or obtain an experientia point are incorrect. In that regard, the mores are kind of like the one unique thing in 13th Age, where it's something that can provide character depth, but it is not to add to mechanics. But at least one mos has to be related to another player's Praetorian, and at least one is to be related to an NPC controlled by the Demiurge. It is, I do like that they say it's suggested to have the lowest amount of mores for beginners and those who are not familiar with the system. And you could see this as this is what my character's habits are and this is what my goals are. But
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know why, but make my father proud of me is just a hilarious one.
I think it's hilarious that that's a conclusive one.
Make my father proud.
But then the tracta, or singular tractum, which are the abilities taught by your guardia, with all the pros and cons related to the typical training and Praetorian culture. So tracta may be activated one time per scene and a maximum of 1 tractum at a time. If it is active and the PC's behavior suits the description of the tractum, they get an additional die per level to to a certain check. On the other hand, if it's active and the PC's behavior is not suitable, they get a negative die. They get a negative die to the check. Each tractum has 1 to 3 levels. When you create your PC, you can have from 3 to 7 tracta, among which 7 points may be distributed. You cannot have a tractum without a level. The level of the tractum is the expression of importance of the features. Tractum inferior represents a Praetorian's minor feature. Medium represents important features and characterizes him without affecting his identity too much. And superior is a good part of the identity and is vital for training and personality. And once the tracta is chosen, then you can move to actually doing the stats which are referred to as the virtues or virtus. These would be the core attributes and are meant to be the foundation and improve much more slowly than other parts. But we have impetus, dexteritas, resilientia, ingenium, sophia, which is basically awareness, and auctoritas, so your social qualities. And could you compare this to the basic? I think you could compare this on some level to the basic 6 that we see in a lot of games. Impetus is not far removed from strength. Dexteritas, self-explanatory there. Resilientia, I'd say that's equivalent to constitution. Ingenium, intelligence. Sophia, I'd say wisdom. And auctoritas is most definitely charisma. Now, with the amount of points that you assign to the physical and mental ones depends on your gradium. So, for example, with Probatus, it mentions you'd get 14 points for physical and 8 for mental. Each one has you have to have assigned 1 point in each, and no more than 6 in each. At character creation, during actual play, they all cap at 10. You also have the 3 anime, which can influence a PC's actions positively or negatively. These three are Logos, Pathos, and Deimos. And you assign 11 points to these three anime, a minimum of 1 level per each, a maximum level of 6 for Logos and Deimos, and for Pathos, it's based on your gradium. For Probatus, the Pathos max is 9. And then Artes, which are basically these skills. We have the Artes Martis, Diane, Mercury, Plutonus, and Minervae. Basically, the five Ordos we saw earlier. You can have them in positive or negative values, but the total sum has to be +2. And whatever your choice of Ordo, it has to be that one has to be higher than all of the others. So whichever Ordo you specialized in, when doing this distribution, that has to be the highest. And the arts cannot be changed. But you also have the Parate, a series of skills and techniques of your character that are specializations of the arts, but can improve or be learned upon by study and practice. You combine them with virtues and use them to replace the arts when possible. Unlike arts, Parate will not generate automatic complications during checks. Every positive level of each arts at level 1 or higher lets you get 1 bonus Parate at level 0 for each level of the arts, which you can level up later. It is a bit odd that Parate and bonus Parate are... I feel like those two should be swapped.
Yeah.
Because with regular Parate, like I mentioned, those are basically skills. You have 33 points to spend on them. The cost of each one is equal to the desired level, with a extra cost if the arts has a negative level. So the 5 arts that we mentioned before, those play a factor into how easy or difficult it is to develop skills. And there's the gratum that you're at is going to determine the cap in terms of how much you can spend on skills. And we do have a nice little chart that goes into it. Which I think the way it's one of those things that took me a second, but I did figure out what it is asking.
I'm rereading it.
Mm-hmm. But what really screwed it up, I think in the order of things, bonus Parate and Parate should be swapped.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it does feel a bit awkward to go into a bonus that you don't know the basis of.
Yeah.
Uh, but this does mean that the R's determines a baseline for that skill. So you know how with games that have an attribute and skill system, there's almost a disincentivization to learn new skills because you have to start at the bottom with them.
Yeah.
We kind of don't have that as much here. Oh. Like if you purchase one I think the thing that makes this a bit tricky is the way this chart is set up. But looking at the examples certainly helps.
Yes, without these examples, I don't know if I'd be entirely clear on how to do this.
Mm-hmm. And it says for the example character they've been building, it says for Arts Diane +3, they obtain 3 bonus per TA at level 0 for free. With +2. And when it comes to per TA themselves, at first I thought, okay, you have to spend points for each. You have to spend points equal to the next rank, but no, you're spending them on a 1-for-1. This does mean you're gonna have a bigger variety of skills.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping later on we have a full skill list. Otherwise, I'd have to ask the question, what would be too broad of a per TA? But the best way to look at it is if you have +2 in, say, Ars Martis, you have 2 skills at 0 for free. Or at the Yeah, it is one of those things that's a bit odd, but it's not I think it's just a matter of presentation. But then we get to the Technolorica. The skeleton setup, and basically I'd call it power armor, but it's more like a power suit. And I just came to a terrifying realization that a good touchstone for the Technolorica would actually be Samus's power suit.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm. And Samus is technically a post-human, but her enhancements aren't as invasive as, say, Gene Seed for 40k. Well, up until Fusion. Because by the time we get to Fusion and then Dread, I think we've completely crossed the threshold into full-on post-human. What with her having Metroid DNA at that point. But as we mentioned last week, Technoloricae are divided into 3 categories, which determines their AP cost when trying to fly or move, as well as how fast it takes them to activate and the number of systemata that they can equip. So a light Lorica can fly and move at 1 AP, activate at 2 AP, and equip 4 Systemata. For a medium, it's 2, 3, and 6, respectively. For a heavy, it's 3, 4, and 8. So we can kind of see the balancing act here. The lighter ones, you can do stuff at less cost, but you don't have as much equipment to bring.
So I will note I wanted to check on the whole skill table thing. So what I did, I put in a search for sniper rifle since under this parity it had sniper rifle +3 to see where exactly I'm finding it. I'm not seeing an actual like list of skills that include sniper rifle. It's getting mentioned in things like distance. There's a piece of gear that supports aim and precision with it. So I don't know if we have like a set defined skill list at all.
In that's not going to be a deal breaker, but it's in that same vein as like skills in Fate, where a bit of guidance could be necessary. That's one of those things where put a pin in that, or to reference what we were talking about before we went live, Mildred will remember this.
I'm going to say this. I think that might hurt this game a little bit, just because, again, there's already so many terms you're having to keep in mind. And now I have to, like, think up skills, too. It's not necessarily going to point that it's a bad system, but with how this is set up, this might be a little rough to try to get into.
Yeah. But your Gradium and rank also give Valor points that you can use to customize Systemata. The Valor points can be spent overall in each single customization of every single Systemata without any other limits. And we already mentioned the different types of Systemata. And then they go into how they're how it's described. And if you use the description properly, you can give yourself extra bonuses, which is a nice touch. It's basically a stunt rule for when you're transforming. But when it comes to configuration, each Systemata has its AP cost, any emblems that make up the effect of it, and ammo. This is also where you can use Valor points to modify it. To either give it +1 ammo, emblem, AP, or Valor point. I.e., you can go with 1 less Valor point to give yourself an additional emblem, increase the AP by 1 to give yourself an additional emblem, or give it an additional emblem to give it 1 more ammo or AP, or give it 1 more ammo to give it an additional emblem. Emblems are a symbol-based effect that I originally saw in Musha Shugyo, one of the other projects by Dreamcatcher, and it is something we'll get into later. But some of the systems you can put in are distance, basically a ranged weapon. melee, passive, and instrumenta. And after that, you have a set of freebie points. I liken these to the customization points at the tail end of a World of Darkness game. You can spend these to do the final customization on your setup.
Yeah, nothing like huge
Mm-hmm.
and impactful, but it lets you like kind of tweak a couple things here and there, keep your guy feeling a little more customized, a bit different maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to have.
Also, all this is an optional rule. I love the Cantus, where if you have your character's background music on, you get a bonus tied to any of your actions at the end of this until the end of the scene.
Look, I know this is probably just here as a joke, but it's a good joke.
The game,
and you could actually do it.
Yeah, it is an optional thing, and there was a significant emphasis on soundtrack when we covered the earlier chapter. So this is just following through on it.
Yeah. Then we get into Voyage of the Young Empress next, which is another little story. Mm-hmm. So we won't be covering that.
Oh yeah. But when we get... I think when it comes to character creation, there's a lot of narrativist elements. And in fact, if I'm to run this game, I would spend a bit more time. I would spend a significant amount of time going into the setting itself so that people understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
Basically, I'd say read the damn primer.
Yeah, this is one of those games. There's a very specific kind of window in which your character is going to fit.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's very clear about that through this whole game. Everything we've read so far points you to that.
I think the only part that we had some issues with was the skill system, because due to how narrativist a lot of the character creation is, having a baseline of suggested skills, I think, could have certainly helped.
I think to a degree the game might be suffering from it's translated into English, and it's translated into English using all of these kind of Latin words, which I don't know if this is an Italian game, right?
Yes.
Or yeah. It is a rough read. I'm not going to lie.
I think it can be because of the terminology, but I think the bigger issue is the frequency of terminology getting tossed all at once, and in some cases I'm not sure if it. I understand having the terminology there for the sake of theme, but having this is more an issue of presentation than anything else.
Yeah, the presentation makes it a rough read. Mm-hmm. Mix that with the narrative elements. If I was just kind of picking this up to look through it and not for this show, there might have been a point here I just clocked out like, nope, not doing this.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a problem with the system itself, because if we're understanding the system right,
mm-hmm.
I think it's actually pretty well put together.
Oh yeah.
But it takes some sorting to kind of piece it together from what we have.
And we may end up coming back to that sort of thing as we get further into it.
Yeah. it is possible we're going to come across some stuff that's going to make a lot of this like be a lot clearer and smoother to understand.
Yeah. Because I've mentioned before, there are some games that are front-loaded, where a lot of the complexity is in the early characterization stuff, but once you actually get past that, things move a lot more smoothly, and I think this is going to be one of those instances.
Yeah.
Especially given it's clear that there's a variety of potential options you can have for characterization. But I think the only part that I think I'm having an issue with in this part is that skill system part of it, and a lot of it comes down to presentation.
Yeah, because it reads like what we read. It read like there's specific skills. Because again, there was sniper rifle under that Praetorian, and there are specific pieces of equipment that specify sniper rifles. It seems like there should be a list of skills that include sniper's rifle because of that.
Well, given the fact that each of the early parts of character creation talks about a once per scene narrative benefit that you can put in, what comes to mind is the loose way skills are used as descriptors in games like Fate or Wushu. And there's nothing wrong with that approach, but when you're doing that kind of narrativist approach, guidance is key. And I think a way to make it a hell of a lot easier would be a sample skill list. Especially if a sample skill list that's tied to each of the different kingdoms. That would probably help quite a bit.
I'm seeing a bit more, like I haven't read in detail, but just at a glance, we will be getting into some more specific stuff relating to this. I don't know if it's necessarily going to assuage our current concerns relating to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to just immediately just chalk it up to bad guidance and design quite yet.
Oh yeah.
But I am worried.
Mm-hmm. So that is something we will cover in the coming weeks. When we come back here next week, let's see what we've got. So next week we're going to be covering the Livrea and Miscellanea, which does mean Livrea will be going into more detail on the Guardia and Ordos, and Miscellanea will be going into the Penite and Systemata. So some of the issues that we brought up here, I think we will be addressing a bit more next week. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, I've got a few more things on the horizon over the next few days. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.